Here is the voice of the working class, Rick Smith.
And welcome, brothers, sisters, working class heroes. This is the Rick Smith Show. Thanks so much for being here. Today on the big program, lots to get to, lots to talk about. Marjorie, three names. Marjorie Taylor Greene, the congresswoman from Georgia, saying, hey, she believes white men are the most persecuted identity in America. Oh, how cute. And look, I gotta tell you, as a white guy, she's sticking up for me. Thanks, Marjorie. Thanks. If only she weren't so crazy. And this is one of those things where you go, this is the woman who said, she likes, lights and refrigeration and air conditioning. And if we go to solar panels and windmills, that all of that's going to go away. We're just going to be standing around looking at each other. Now, it's one of those things where you go, is she really that stupid, or is she really brilliant at faking it? And I don't know. I think I'm going with A. I think I'm going with A. Now, talking about persecuted white men, I have found the Senate race that I am going to be paying a lot of attention to going forward. It's the U.S. Senate race in New Hampshire, because evidently a bunch of the Republican races, they're pulling money out of, and we'll talk about that a little bit today. But New Hampshire, they got a libertarian candidate who, again, this is that quiet part that you whisper to each other. People whisper to each other, but never dumb enough to either write down for social media to see, or you blurt out in public. This is the kind of stuff that years ago, if you'd believed it, you didn't say it because it got you all the wrong kind of attention. But today, oh no, today, quiet part, they're basically screaming. Now, a commentator put out a graph on how much more liberal younger women are to younger men. And this person said, well, of course, that's because that 19th Amendment thing, that was the death of liberty. It was the death of liberty, that whole. And for those who don't know what the 19th Amendment was, that's what gave women the right to vote. So by having women have the right to vote in this libertarian gentleman's, in this white guy's view, death of liberty. Death of liberty. Yeah. Now, these are the very same people who, my libertarian friends, who say, everyone should be equal and everyone should use their talents and there should be no laws and there should be chaos and anarchy. And yeah, but women, you getting the right to vote? Death of liberty. Death of liberty. Now, speaking of death of liberty, Kansas just had a little vote not too long ago. Ladies, this might be important to you. Basically not putting in their state's constitution an amendment to bar your right to have a choice over your own body. Oh, but the Kansas elections director has said, well, what we're going to do? We're going to do a hand recount of every county in the state. No, it's not going to change the results because it was an overwhelming number of votes. I don't even think Trump could imagine. Well, maybe they could. Maybe the Trumpkins can. Yeah, I'm thinking the MAGA world would buy into 165,000 votes were cast illegally in a state the size of Kansas. I'm sure of that, especially with all of the right-wing people who were overseeing with Chris Kobach and his clan, lurking around. I'm sure it was possible. But there's going to be a hand recount of all the votes. I'm not sure who's going to pay for it. And it's a good thing because Kansas, education's fully funded. They're going to school 4 days a week now, right? I think they're back to 4. Maybe someday when they fund it a little better, they'll get to 5. They're flush with cash, so they can waste it on counting an election that they just got creamed on. But hey, got to stick with the fantasy that elections are rigged. And this is what the Trump era has brought us. This kind of divisive division, this kind of, you're in your polar camps based on what hat you're wearing or what T-shirt you bought. That elections don't seem to matter. And I was thinking about this over the weekend. Kevin McCarthy, asked the Reagan question: Are you better off today than you were 2 years ago? And to a person, you have to go, life-wise, yeah. We're not locked down. There's toilet paper on the shelves. The economy's doing, unemployment's, at a historic low. All this stuff, yes, so much, worlds better. But depending on what hat or T-shirt you bought, your view is skewed. I know a lot of people who are doing financially really, really well, miserable, because their guy isn't, torturing the others. Which brings us to happy anniversary to the Unite the Right folks, because today was the day a president recognized you as a good person. You may remember Heather Heyer was murdered at the Unite the Right rally back in 2017. Some person in a car ran into a crowd of people and killed her. Neo-Nazi skinhead pinhead from Ohio. And that got Trump to respond on this day back in 2017 with the famous, "There are fine people on both sides, very fine people on both sides" comment. So happy anniversary to that. Now, again, this is one of those moments where it's kind of historic in my view, at least in my lifetime. I've never heard a sitting president throw a shout out to the neo-Nazis and the white supremacists. This is the anniversary of a presidential, hey, fist bump to our Nazi friends. And that's why you've got one running for governor here in Pennsylvania and a couple others around the country. So, yeah, big fun. Now, I spent the weekend basically with whiplash, going back and forth between which excuse Trump was throwing out and which excuse MAGA world was throwing out, and all of the mental gymnastics of justifying why Trump had these classified documents. Because I think right now, it's out that these were classified documents, that these are important documents, that he had them. Remember at first you go, oh, wait a second. No, they were planted. No, they're not planted anymore. And when the planted story came out, my first thought was going, uh-oh, this must be bad. If immediately first club out of the bag, they're planted, means really bad stuff. And the more we're finding out, the more we're going, oh, crud, really bad stuff. Horrible stuff we don't want in the hands of just anyone. And now that story has evolved. I mean, you got to give the right credit. They can spin a yard. They can make stuff up like the best of them. Now it is evidently, and I asked this question last week of our guest Bob Ney, could Trump have signed an executive order out the door saying, I declassify everything? And, for my personal use, I declassify. And the answer is no, he couldn't have done that without everybody knowing about it. That's not one of those things you can really do in secret and stick in the drawer. That's the argument that they're making now, that he declassified all this stuff so he can just wave his hand. It's like magic. It's like Trumpian magic. He just by waving his hand, it's something in the orange skin. It just wipes away the classification. It's gone, and it's declassified, and he can use it however he sees fit. Because now what we're finding out, and the fun of finding out what's kind of in here, what's being told is payroll information about assets potentially around the world. So potentially they had all of the names of potential covert operatives all around the world. And you go, why would he be having this? For what purpose? Now remember, my initial thought was, hey, he just wants to have stuff marked classified. So go, hey, look what I've got. I'm now coming around to the idea that maybe, possibly, this is blackmail stuff. This is selling stuff. And I'm not conspiratorial by any stretch of the imagination, but why would you take the payroll information of potential covert operatives around the world other than to twist some arms? Now, here's the thing. Now, the right is saying, no, see, what this is all about is covering up the Russia hoax, because what he was doing, he was ferreting out all of the Russia stuff. And I'm going, well, if that were true, he was president for 4 years. This stuff should have been coming out all during the time when he was in office, because he did have an FBI. In fact, we still have the FBI director that he chose. So he chose someone that was loyal to him, or supposedly. Shouldn't all this stuff have been coming out? Why was there going to be a book? Are we going to have to pay $200 to find out the truth that it was a Russia hoax? Is that what the game was? Was this a money-making scheme? Another bad picture book that we were going to have of stolen documents again? Is this where we were going to go? And sadly, this seems to be the argument that they're making. So the question I have is, are you buying this? Are you buying that, no, we didn't have anything, it was planted? No, wait a second, we had stuff. Now remember, Friday I said I got 87 emails of right-wing groups and Republican Party groups and all these pro-Trump groups going, hey, they raided Trump's house, be outraged, you're next, send us money. And I said, it's Grifter's Super Bowl. They're going to fleece the flock because it's what they do. Today, four. Which leads me to believe that even they're not buying the giant, steaming, smelly pile of BS that the Orange Menace is shoveling. That even they are going, this is a bridge too far. The flock might wake up. The flock may go, oh, wait a second, we've actually been fleeced. They may figure out that they have no clothes. And they may demand, I don't know, something. Not the true believer crowd, never. But the everyone else, potentially. I'd love to hear your thoughts. 1-866-416-RICK. 1-866-416-7425. Are you buying the flip-flopping story, the all-around-the-world story, no, he was really playing Columbo. He was investigating the Russia hoax. No, he was one of the Hardy Boys. That's it. Yeah, that's it. He was Donald Hardy. He was one of the Mystery Machine. He was Scooby or Shaggy. He was ferreting out the Russia hoax. You buying any of this nonsense? Because it's what they're shoveling. A past president this is what they're selling. This is the argument for why he had to break the law. Had to do it. Because we're ferreting down to the truth. Wow. Gonna take a quick break. Right back with your thoughts. 1-866-416-RICK. 1-866-416-7425. This is The Rick Smith Show. We're working people. Come to talk. If you're a fan of the show, you've heard our labor history in 2 segments, and you can hear them on the radio pretty much anywhere in the U.S. Labor history has never been more important than it is right now. So here's what we'd like you to do. Tell a teacher. Tell a teacher that labor history is important and that they can get digestible 2-minute lessons that are absolutely free. Free to download, free to use, free to share. Tell a teacher to go to thericksmithshow.com/history and help us put labor back where it belongs, in the classroom. Generations of American workers fought, bled, and died to build the American way of life. It's our job to keep their stories alive. Go tell a teacher that we're here to help them do just that. Find us at thericksmithshow.com/history today.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So, a Pennsylvania man was arrested for making threats to the FBI, evidently claiming on Gab that all FBI agents deserve to die. Kind of like the Cincinnati guy. He said his only goal is to kill more of them before I drop. He compares the FBI to the Nazi SS and the KGB. He says that I'll shoot an SS officer in the head just as quick as I'd shoot a KGB officer in the head. Police state scum or police state scum, period. Yeah, get ready for a lot more of this fun and entertainment from our geniuses. Let's go to the phones. Got CJ from Madison, Wisconsin on the line. CJ, how are we doing today?
I'm good. Thanks for taking my call, Rick.
Sure, go.
I am a conservative in Madison, Wisconsin, which, reality we live on State Street when we saw it torn down with the riots and the crime, and
What riots?
our
What
Democrat
riots?
mayor did nothing.
What riots are you talking about?
Me?
There were
Well,
riots
we
in
had
Madison?
some severe damage done.
Whoa, stop,
Madison
CJ.
to our
Which
State
riots are you
Street.
talking about? In Madison?
Yes.
When? What year?
Isn't it sad that you don't even know?
Because there were no riots. What are you talking about? 2011?
Well, just like this.
Are you talking about
Mar-a-Lago,
2011?
No, I'm talking relatively recently, 2020.
Madison was
Joe Biden
Madison.
did
There were
nothing.
riots where
But,
businesses were destroyed in Madison. Because I
Yes,
got friends who
very
live in
many.
Madison.
But
They've never mentioned this.
I'm sure they didn't. You're
There were
listening to
protests.
Democrat press.
No, there were protests.
You
There were
know,
people in the
we got
streets.
an
Absolutely.
anniversary. We got a 1-year anniversary of the Commander cut and run, and cost 13 soldiers' lives. Trump had a conditional withdrawal, and he kept 2,500 military there.
Again, everything
Now we
that Joe
got
Biden had to
famine
clean
and
up was left
disarray.
behind because of Trump. All of the stuff that happened at the end of
yeah.
that, CJ, was because Trump put that deadline. Remember when conservatives and Republicans were against deadlines? But isn't that exactly what Donald Trump did to Joe Biden? Wasn't that exactly what happened? Of course it was
Are you
exactly what
aware
happened.
that
I'll
one of
answer
those
it for you.
soldiers
We both
that
know the
died-
truth.
One of those soldiers that died, his younger
Again,
brother,
back to what I said. We both know the truth.
and it's on
All right, CJ, I appreciate the time, buddy. Let's move along. We'll go to Alice on line 3. No, this is the thing that gets me. I ask a simple question, can't get a simple answer. Alice, what's on your mind?
Oh, I just wanted to say you forgot one thing when you were talking about the Republicans and their talking points. You mean that you missed it when, I forget who it was from the Federalist Society said, and I'm not even joking, and I'm going to paraphrase and sum it up. He basically said that, well, a president and President Trump could have just thought it in his head and it was done. They were declassified, and I'm not even joking.
Yeah, no, these are the arguments that we get. But but here's the fun part of all this. Hillary Clinton testified for 11 hours, never pled the fifth once, and still has her passports.
Yeah, but I'm telling you, I thought, oh my God, these people live, I don't know what world they live in, what alternate universe that, and now it's so absurd. It's like, all he has to do is think it. It doesn't even have to speak it out loud, and it's declassified. I thought, I don't even know what reality you people are living in. But have a good evening,
Thanks,
Rick.
Alice. Appreciate it. No, this is, again, I'd love to hear your thoughts. 1-866-416-RICK, 1-866-416-7425. And my friends in Madison, I'd love to hear about these riots, these mystery riots. I guess it's like the Bowling Green Massacre. I must have missed that. But please do share if you were there. If there are photos, by all means. 1-866-416-RICK, 1-866-416-7425. Now, but, Alice makes an interesting point, just how they stay on message. And you got to give the right credit. They have built a massive media empire where, look, they disseminate their talking point of the day. Because I specifically asked my friend, former congressman, someone who knows the ins and outs of things, how they get classified, how you get them declassified. And he said, look, the president could declassify them, but you would have known about it. There are no secret executive orders, no pocket executive orders that go in a drawer somewhere, just like a get out of jail free card. You don't get to do that. But this is what the claim is by the right. That all of the things that were in his possession, somehow he preemptively declassified. I guess it's that old Nixon. Well, if the president does it, it's not a crime. Problem is he's not the president anymore. Let's go to the phones. Got Jeff from Atlanta on line 3. Jeff, how are we doing today?
I'm doing good, Richard, but currently right now I'm working out of Columbus, Ohio.
Oh, good on you. Love Columbus.
Well, I do too, because I want to give a shout out to a local 172 for putting all of us out of towners to work because there's no work in Atlanta. So
what are you building up there?
I'm on multiple projects.
Okay.
Because one, the chip plan passed. They're going to be building a chip plant north of Columbus. And
thanks, Joe Biden.
Yeah.
So what's on your mind? Hit me up.
Well, I've got a couple things. I've missed you for the last couple of weeks because I've been working so many hours and crashing so early. But that's why I had to write some notes down. You may have already crossed these bridges, but if Trump wasn't hiding anything, what does he have to worry about? Remember, he said only the mob takes the fifth.
Yep.
And he wants to know who ratted him out. Well, it could have been one of the Secret Service agents who's doing his job.
That was my guess.
So many people aren't doing their jobs. And then remember all those stickers that had Joe Biden pointing his index finger saying, "I did that"?
Yep.
Well, I got to tell you, they're still pointing at the gas pumps while the gas pumps are going down.
But oddly enough, they've been disappearing.
No, not at my place.
Okay, good.
I clear coated it. So they got to dig through the clear coat paint to get to that. So
there you go.
And while the great state of Kentucky, Rand Paul and Mitch McConnell scramble to support Trump, I think they're going to be in the same quicksand that pulls him down. And like I told you, your state of birth is currently booming. So that's a good thing for the state of Ohio.
No, it is. I mean, there's a lot of investment going on in there, and again, it comes back down to the infrastructure bill. It comes back to the investments that we're making that the vast majority of Republicans didn't support, and this is the sad reality of where we are. Based on what hat you bought for the last election, you're going to side with, hey, we need to invest in America, we need to defend our borders, or we don't. I mean, it's a very weird kind of world that we're in, Jeff, right now, where we can't seem to agree on things outside of the polar political stakes that have been jammed into the ground.
Well, when I first came up to Columbus, I was staying with a cousin, and that was until the per diem kicked in, and they are very pro-Trump, very pro-Republican. And I was like, why? You people run an independent business, and businesses do better under a democratic government. People have more free money to spend.
Right.
And they're like, oh, no. And so the word right to work came up. And they're like, well, right to work is great. It means everybody can work. I said, wrong. It means the right to work for less. And second of all, I read in your local Columbus Times how a couple teachers quit their jobs teaching to go to work for Walmart because Walmart paid more. So tell me how that's better.
That is a sad testament to the system that we've got propped up around us. But Jeff, I appreciate you giving me a yell. I wish you the best there in Columbus. I know you're going to do great work there, and I hope you get home real soon.
Oh, yeah. All right. I'll still be listening.
Good stuff. Appreciate it, man. And please call back again soon. Love to hear your thoughts. You can email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. If you miss any portion of the program, make sure you grab the podcast. Wherever you get your favorite podcast, you'll find ours. Quick break. Right back. Stick around. I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1917. That was the day IWW leader Frank Little was buried in Butte, Montana. Little had been lynched on August 1st by police agents thought to be working for the despised Anaconda Copper Company. He had arrived in town to help organize 14,000 striking copper miners. Devastated by the deaths of 168 miners in the June fire at Granite Mountain and Spectacular Mines, mine workers formed the Metal Mine Workers Union and walked off the job. Frank Little had previously worked as a hard rock miner and organizer for the Western Federation of Miners. He also took part in the free speech campaigns on the West Coast. Little was involved in early drives to industrially organize oil workers and lumberjacks. He voiced his opposition to the First World War and sought to stop workers from enlisting. When Little arrived in Butte in July, he worked to build strike support, picket lines, and spread the strike to other trades across the city. Early on August 1st, 6 masked men broke into the boarding house where he was staying. He was beaten and taken from his room. His assailants tied him to the bumper of their car and dragged him through the granite streets of Butte to the Milwaukee Bridge, where he was hanged. An ominous note was pinned to his bullet-ridden body with the words that read, "Others take notice. First and last warning." It included the numbers 3, 7, and 77, as well as the initials of other union organizers in the area. As many as 10,000 marched in his funeral procession. Days after his lynching, martial law was declared. Labor radicals were rounded up and charged with espionage. The miners' strike and union were crushed. Labor History in 2 brought to you by the Illinois Labor History Society and The Rick Smith Show. For more information, go to laborhistoryin2.com, like us on Facebook, and follow us on the Twitters at Labor History in 2.
From corporate polluters to political bosses, power elites try to create a myth of inevitability, trying to make workaday people feel helpless, too small to change the injustices of the system. Don't bother is their message. But the feisty residents of Boxtown, Tennessee definitely did bother when they learned that a couple of profiteering fossil fuel giants were targeting them. Boxtown, a historic black neighborhood of Memphis settled by former slaves 160 years ago, was considered by Valero Energy and Plains All-American Pipeline to be politically powerless. So when these multi-billion-dollar petro powers decided to ram a dirty and dangerous pipeline through the Memphis area, Boxtown was their chosen route. The rich Texas oil barons even sneeringly called the lower-income community the point of least resistance. Boy, did they get that wrong. Those, quote, small people of Boxtown resisted fiercely and smartly. Most flat out refused to sell their family land at the thieving price offered by the oil slicks. They forged a unified grassroots coalition, Memphis Community Against the Pipeline, reached out to other neighborhoods and educated locals about the terrible safety records of the two corporate plunderers. They also enlisted environmental groups to help beat back the strong-arm attempt by Valero and Plains All-American to seize the people's property through eminent domain. It's a long story with many ups and downs, but the inspiring essence of it is that local, quote, nobodies defeated the big money and raw racist arrogance of a powerhouse duo of absentee corporate elites that disrespected and misjudged them. This is Jim Hightower saying grassroots communities and coalitions are winning such gutsy fights against corporate exploiters all across America. Remember this, even the smallest dog can lift its leg on the tallest building.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Check out our website, thericksmithshow.com. So Tuesday, big primary, Alaska, Wyoming. Normally, we're never talking about the primaries in Alaska and in Wyoming. In fact, I don't think most people can find Wyoming on the map. Sad testament to our education system. But this year, kind of interesting. In Alaska, you've got what's going on with the congressional race. Maybe we get Sarah Palin in Congress, which would compete with Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Three Names to see who could be crazier. I think Sarah's going to be outclassed, but we'll see. But also Lisa Murkowski, does she stay in the Senate? Yeah, probably. But also, Wyoming. Wyoming, where Liz Cheney looks like she's going to get shellacked for doing the right thing. And while I don't like Liz Cheney, I think she's evil. I think she's a monster policy-wise. At least in this, she's right. And I stand with her on this. But here to share some thoughts on the big primary, I've asked Carolyn Fiddler to come talk with us. Carolyn is the political editorial director over at Career Newsroom. Carolyn, thanks for taking time for us.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
So, primary day, generally nobody cares about these states. Why now?
Because Liz Cheney stood up and did the right thing in one very important instance, namely standing up for democracy and standing against the rioters back January 6th, 2021. and she's going to lose because of it. And it's, you know, it's sad because a Republican is going to represent Wyoming anyway.
Right.
So, you know, she has her problems. Yes, she is a monster policy-wise, but the person who is likely to beat her is even worse somehow and is not pro-democracy. So,
and this is where I go back to the whole Trumpian argument that they're going to drain the swamp. We're going to drain the swamp. And when the first time I heard that, I go, yeah, maybe they're going to. Maybe they're going to drain the swamp, but they're going to put much bigger and much uglier monsters in the swamp. And it's exactly what we're seeing. They are filling every space, every bit of space with ugly monsters.
Yeah. They got rid of the alligators and they thought, whoa, crocodiles will be fine. Just peachy.
But let's talk about the Alaska race, because look, I think Sarah Palin's time has passed of being the crazy of the party. Just
Agreed.
like Michelle Bachmann. I used to love Michelle Bachmann.
Oh my gosh.
She was fun, crazy.
I hadn't thought about her in a long time.
But I used to love Michelle Bachmann because she was fun, kind of crazy. She's a little kooky, religious zealot-y kind of over there, but not mean, evil, rip your heart out and shove it down someone's throat kind of crazy. Yeah. I see that becoming the way of the party now. It's kind of frightening.
Yeah, the definition of quote unquote crazy, right-wing extremism has absolutely shifted over the past decade, and it's been terrifying to watch. Yeah, Michelle Bachmann used to be a scary outlier in her own party, and now we're nostalgic for Michelle Bachmann. Like, what does that say? That's bonkers.
Yeah, I mean, when you're pining, you're going, Nixon wasn't such a bad guy.
Oh God.
I mean, this is where we are, Carolyn.
Yeah.
We're in this moment where you go, Reagan, while he destroyed the country and had horrible policies that, just ruined the middle class and destroyed opportunity for millions, he wasn't that bad.
I don't know. His stuff had such lasting impacts, though, in terms of badness, that I think he gets an extra couple notches on the evil scale just for how effective he was.
And that's true. But here's the thing. Again, like all cult leaders, he had staying power because they worship him. In fact, I had a conversation with a MAGA hat wearing Trump acquaintance who thinks, Reagan is a saint. And you go, but you do realize that the things don't match up, that what you believe isn't reality. Because Reagan wasn't.
People hated Reagan now. I thought he was no longer cool with them.
No, this guy, I guess he didn't get the memo. It wasn't in this month's installment of,
the MAGA monthly. He skipped it.
Well, it's not like they read. I mean, that's the other part of it. The pop-up must have lost its pop-up. I don't know.
There we go.
Maybe they missed the little finger pointing thing. But but I got into this conversation, and it what isn't even reality anymore. Because if you remember last week, Kevin McCarthy came out and asked that question: "Are you better off than you were 2 years ago?" And I think virtually everybody I've talked to, economically, going, "Yeah, is life better?" And then you go put it in the political frame. You've got people who go, no, things are much worse off. And you go, how can you come to that other than you bought the hat and the T-shirt?
Yes. Often literally. Yes. No, 2 years ago, things were much scarier. I remember just being scared every day of the pandemic, what was going to happen, my friends and relatives' jobs. It was a time of just extreme uncertainty, and uncertainty is so terrifying. And at least now we kind of know what's going on. We're used to the uncertainty to a point, and certain things have righted themselves. The economy came back. We got back all the jobs we lost in COVID. It's amazing.
And then some.
Yeah.
And we're doing massive investments in the future. There's a lot of good things happening, and yet there are people who think the country's on the wrong track and we're all going to where in a handbag. So the question that I have is, does it even matter to ask that question anymore? Are you better off? Because it's never going to matter again like it did in the past. Because even if you're doing really well, if your guy, whoever you're wearing the T-shirt for, didn't win, you're miserable. And isn't that a horrible place to be in?
It is a horrible place to be, but those hat and T-shirt folks are really loud, but they're not everybody. They're not the majority. Most humans people who sat out, the last election maybe, or maybe just took a chance on Trump in 2016, those folks do think about whether or not they're better off. And that question still matters to most voters.
I hope so. I'm hoping so because look, I'm watching right-wing media, and maybe that's my problem. I consume too much of the F channel, and then all of the sister crazy, all the rest of the alphabet soup of wealth-funded, outlandish nonsense that gets put out. But I do consume way too much of that, and I didn't hear anything about the CHIPS bill. I didn't hear anything about the Inflation Reduction Act and the positives coming out of that. I did hear, however, how AR-14 carrying gun thugs from the IRS are going to kick in my door and steal my children. I did hear that.
It's very specific. Is that to cover like your unpaid taxes? We'll just take the kid in exchange. It's no big deal.
I don't know actually, but I did hear.
Back, you get the kid back. It's absolutely bonkers. They've latched onto the MAGA t-shirt and hat crowd. They latched onto this one part of an amazing piece of legislation and decided to distort it. Shockingly, the IRS thing. The IRS's sort of infrastructure itself internally is just so outdated. Like they actually, no one's pro IRS, but I'm pro them being able to do their jobs. Like it's a bad scene over there.
Yeah, but here again, this is another one of those things where the right, you have to give them credit. They've had this chew toy for a very long time. They've primed their audience to viscerally hate the IRS. And look, I'm not a big fan either.
Right.
Nobody
no
is.
Like, yay, IRS.
It's like, yeah, I like my dentist. I hate going to the dentist, and I've never had a cavity. So, there's that. But, it's a necessary thing. You've got to pay your bills. You've got to invest in things. And when
it's also about security, too. Like, IRS has a boatload of Americans' data, and there's, them being so behind technologically puts all that at risk. I am shocked there hasn't been a massive data breach already, frankly.
Yeah,
we're lucky.
There is that. But the thing is that the right grabs onto this chew toy like the IRS, because you remember back in 2010 they were going after the IRS is targeting Tea Party groups.
Oh yeah,
you remember that?
I do.
No, they're targeting criminals.
Yeah, it was a fantasy. It was a fantasy, and because those Tea Party groups were actually doing illegal things.
Yes. So when you break the law, this is how and what I find ironic is these are the people who tell me they're the law and order crowd. Then when they break the law, now they're talking about defunding and killing FBI agents. Very kind of strange times, I think.
Yeah, no, these people understand that our policing and legal system is actually fundamentally inequitable. But as long as it doesn't specifically impact them, they're okay with it. Once that comes home to roost for them, and there are a lot of problems in our legal and justice system for sure, and the way that policing is handled in the United States. But as long as they don't suffer, they don't care. They think the inequality is a feature, not a bug.
Yep. No, and this is where the right is masterful, and their investment in all those think tanks and all those focus groups really pays off. Because now I've got to almost defend the FBI and almost defend the IRS. And look, I got massive problems with both of them too. I don't want to be their defender, but when they're not wrong, they're not wrong.
They win the Broken Clock Award. Yay.
Exactly. See how that works? And when someone's wrong, like, I don't know, stealing classified documents, we shouldn't have to go through, a weekend of mental gymnastics to come up with a fantasy tale of how, magically a former president has power to, to declassify things just by waving his hands or standing on one foot and hopping while picking his nose. It's just ludicrous.
Double secret declassification.
That's it. Is there a secret declassification dance? I do now need to know. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Maybe we'll try it. Send videos. That's it. Send videos.
Yes, we need some TikToks of the declassification dance straight away.
Yeah, because the Chinese absolutely need more crappy data from the U.S. You're listening to the Rick Smith Show here with Carolyn Fiddler. She's the political editorial director at Courier Newsroom. CourierNewsroom.com is their website if you want to check out the work that they do there. So, I mean, let's talk a little bit about the classified documents. From what I'm hearing, from what the reports are coming out, a lot to be concerned about here, especially about the fact the payroll data of people, assets, agents around the world. Why is I'm
Yeah. Speaking of national security, thinking of security issues and data breaches. Woo.
Yeah, other than blackmail, why would you have these?
I mean, maybe the Saudis golf tournament that was hosted at the Trump Golf Club was supposed to be a place for information to be. That's bonkers. That's QAnon level conspiracy stuff.
Yeah, I'm not going with you there.
It is also just like, we don't know what he's up to, because he could be up to anything. Like, Trump has demonstrated time and time again that there's no floor, there is no bottom.
Yeah, wasn't that one of the sale points that the right used to be? He's unpredictable.
Yeah, what was I saying earlier about, like, not being able to know what the future holds being scary? Like, uncertainty is terrifying. I find Trump terrifying, because
now the thing is,
you're not certain what he's going to do next.
I don't think there was going to be any transfer at the golf outing. I don't think the winner was going to get the secret documents.
No.
But I do have to question the $2 billion that Jared Kushner got. I do have to question the money that Mnuchin got from the Saudis, and why there were what strings were attached to that, considering that the people who approved that money in Saudi Arabia said, no, this is a bad deal, we shouldn't do this, but were overridden by Mr. Bonesaw.
Jesus. Yeah, we're going to be unpacking the corruption of the Trump administration for years and years to come. Like, we have the immediate problem of preserving democracy right now, and that should be our priority. But there was just so much corruption and quid pro quo and things, I'm sure, that we haven't even thought of yet that happened in that administration, that it hasn't even begun to come out.
I got to tell you, though, if I have to pick a team as an observer, if I'm watching purely for the entertainment value of this entire horrible situation, I'm going to side with the storytelling on the right, because, man, they've got a much better fantasy team. They dream up much better things, and then they disseminate it to the masses much more efficiently than the truth. So there's part of me that goes, I think they're gonna come out with the better tale.
They do have a interesting story, but it's just a story, and everyone knows facts have a well-known liberal bias. So.
There is always that. There is always that. So the last line of questioning I've got in this, because I've got friends who they're so excited. They're so excited that Trump's going to finally get the orange jumpsuit and be on the side of the road picking up litter.
Oh, bless them. Tell them to not hold their breaths. I'm so sorry.
And then you see already there are already pieces out there of Democrats surrendering, saying, "Oh, how can we do limited pardons?" Which is just kind of dumb. I'm in the middle. I want to know what it is what happened. I want to know what the documents were. We never will on that front, but I want someone held accountable, and then I want to make sure that it doesn't happen again. I think that's kind of important.
It's pretty essential at this point. Trump did a great job of illuminating all the flaws in our democracy, and also tearing away at them for 4 years plus. So
see, now this is where maybe we're going to differ a little bit. Mm-hmm. I don't give Trump that much credit. I don't think he's that smart.
Oh no, I'm not saying he did it on purpose.
Oh no, I think they know exactly what they're doing. John Eastman was probably thinking about that. There was a think tank out dreaming up the Eastman plan. This is where the right-wing establishment, all of the think tanks and all the focus groups they do, and all the smart people they pay to dream up bad ideas. This is where, as Milton Friedman said, it's what's laying around when crisis hits. These are the ideas that have been laying around in conservative circles for decades. It's only Trump who is the one who's going, oh yeah, what the hell? What do we got to lose other than the entire country?
No, he's not smart enough to come up with half these ideas on his own, but he's smart enough to know that they were effective disruptors.
Yeah. So I said last question, but predictions for the big primary on Tuesday. How bad does Cheney get slaughtered, and does she run for president? And Palin Murkowski, do they make it?
I think Murkowski makes it. I'm less sold on Palin making it. I wonder how tired of her Alaskans might be. My money's on Begich there, but and I like to think that the margin in Wyoming is not going to be like super huge, but she might get her butt handed to her.
No chance she pulls it out. No chance the Democrats come rushing in with that wonderful endorsement.
Not that optimistic.
Okay, not that optimistic.
No.
Still, good on her for doing the right thing. I never thought I would say good on a Cheney for doing the right thing.
Right, that's where we are now.
Yes, that is where we are. But Carolyn, I appreciate the time. Always great talking with you. I look forward to talking to you again real soon.
Likewise, thank you.
Outstanding. Carolyn Fiddler, the political editorial director of our Career Newsroom, careernewsroom.com, the website if you want to check out the work that they do. Fabulous stuff. Highly suggest you take a look at it. Quick break. Right back with your thoughts. 1-866-416-RICK, 1-866-416-7425. I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1989. That was the day that Jerry Horgan was killed while walking the picket line. Jerry was a chief steward for the Communication Workers of America Local 1103. The communication workers were on strike against telecom giant NYX Corporation, which became part of the present-day Verizon company. At issue was management's proposal to shift a greater share of the healthcare costs onto the backs of workers. The strike wore on for a total of 17 weeks. In total, nearly 60,000 telephone workers in the Northeast participated in the walkout. These included both CWA members as well as members of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. Jerry Horgan was part of the strike in the town of Valhalla, New York, about 25 miles north of New York City. Jerry was struck by a vehicle driven by a strikebreaker while walking the picket line. The driver was the daughter of one of the company's managers. She was never charged for hitting Jerry, although some at the scene claimed she accelerated after hitting him with her car. One witness, Charles Pierce, recalled that Jerry was run down like a dog. The CWA honors Jerry's memory by wearing red t-shirts. In 2010, a CWA article titled "Why We Wear Red" explained, quote, "The idea started small. We asked our members to wear red on Thursday to remind the company of the blood they had spilled and to show support for our fallen brother. But it quickly spread nationwide as a sign of solidarity every Thursday at CWA locations. Jerry Horgan was killed standing up for the rights of workers and fighting for a better tomorrow for all workers. Labor History in 2 brought to you by the Illinois Labor History Society and The Rick Smith Show. For more information, go to laborhistoryin2.com.
You're listening to The Rick Smith Show, where working people come to talk.
Got an email during the break. It's one of those things where you just go. Mary writes, I live in Madison, Wisconsin. I don't have any idea what your previous caller was talking about. There have been no riots in Madison. I don't know if he was talking about all the workers who came out in 2011. I don't know if he was talking about the demonstrations that we've been having over the years, but there have been no riots. I repeat, no riots. Now, here's the thing. Mary, if someone could define a riot as, people that they don't necessarily identify with demanding their rights, that could be considered a riot in certain circles. It's all in your definition, because these are the same people who don't view January 6th as a riot or anything. It was just, if you listen to them, it was a patriotic day. Stabbing policemen with flags and beating them with shields and bear spray in the eyes and kicking and punching and all. That was a patriotic day of good God-fearing Christians, doing what they do. Now, as far as 2011, I've had people go, oh, there was a riot. I was there. I was in Madison. Met a lot of people. Love the people of Madison. I was in Madison for the first almost 2 weeks. And I remember driving to Madison. for the second day of the uprising. And I kept hearing news reports, the tensions are high, and, almost like, hey, there's going to be a riot. Now, look, when I was younger, I didn't mind tussling around a bit. You get into some stuff. So I was kind of going, hey, well, let's see what this is like. I'm not against, bumping around a bit. So I'm expecting, tensions to be high. I'm expecting anger, and, I'm expecting a riot, because that's what they're telling me as I'm driving the 800 miles to get there. The whole way they're going, it's a riot. And I'm going, I'm expecting a riot. So we park the car, we get out and go, let's go to the riot. Yay, riot. Kind of excited about this. Haven't been to a riot. Oh boy, it's my first riot. So I'm walking on the grounds of the Capitol, and there's this little old lady, about 90 years old, who is seated in a wheelchair with a cardboard sign, and I've got the picture somewhere on one of my computers, was saying Union Thug on it. So here's this cute little old lady with a sign around her face saying Union Thug, and she hands me a sweet potato. I'm going, wait a second. This isn't what I was expecting for a riot. So I walk about 100 yards further, and then I got my producer and the camera person with me, and we're marching along, and we come to another guy who hands me a bratwurst, and I'm going, wait a second. What is this, a food riot? And I'll tell you, during the time I was there, never fed better. It was the best fed riot ever. The cleanest riot. And I say this because I want people to remember what happened in 2011 when Scott Walker went and basically gutted employment rights in the state of Wisconsin. Something he never ran on. Act 10 did horrible damage to workers in the state of Wisconsin. But those TAs, the people who led that uprising, the people who actually read the piece of legislation and protested against the massive education cuts and all of the draconian things that Walker wanted to do, those people organized an incredible demonstration and occupation. They set up areas for people to get fed, for people to get first aid if they needed it, for child care if they needed that. There were things already in place for people to, if they needed help, to get the help they needed. In fact, I'll still never forget, and I'll never forget the girl. There are a couple of them that I'll never forget. There was a girl on her hands and knees. There were a couple of them, but there were the one I talked to, scrubbing the floor of the Capitol because someone had got some kind of glue on the floor. She's on her hands and knees scrubbing, and she goes, I don't want to leave a mark. I don't want to deface our state's property. And I said, if only your parents could see you now. Because those kids did an amazing job. And to have someone say, no, it's a riot. No, that was democracy in action. That's what the democratic process is about. People going and seeking redress of their grievances. So you're right. There are no riots in Madison. And I love the people of Madison. I love the city. It's a beautiful place. It's sad. It's sad when people try to make stuff up like that. Kind of troubling. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Were you there in 2011? Am I missing this mythical riot? Is it like the Bowling Green Massacre? Did I miss that too? rick@thericksmithshow.com. If you miss any of the program, make sure you grab the podcast.
In South Korea's capital region, a deluge, turning Seoul's busy streets into rivers.
South Korea, the latest victim of climate-intensified deadly flash floods. Last month, one of the hottest Julys ever recorded.
Tell me about it.
Plus,
protesters gathering outside factories like Heineken and Coca-Cola, demanding they reduce water use and redirect it to citizens.
Mexico declares state of emergency over intensifying persistent drought.
All of that intensification and more straight ahead. From BradBlog.com, I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
Stand by for 6 minutes of independent green news, politics, analysis, and snarky comment.
Among other things, the bill provides tax credits to boost solar panels, batteries, and other technologies, and also makes it costly to emit methane. Slight hitch on that last one. From now on, you have to pay a $10 toll every time you fart.
Damn it. This is your Green News Report.
Don't worry, there's going to be an easy pass. You're not going to like where it goes.
Okay, Desi Doyen, I thought we passed the climate bill. I thought this was all supposed to be solved by now.
We haven't passed it yet, and no, it is not solved by now.
Damn it.
South Korea this week is the latest country to be hit with record rainfall and deadly flash floods. The capital city of Seoul was deluged with as much as 18 inches of rain in a single day, triggering catastrophic flash floods that killed at least 10 people.
Another 1,000-year flood. They keep coming, day after day after day.
The flooding inundated homes, roads, and subways and cut power, forcing hundreds to evacuate. South Korea's president cited climate change in calling for improvements to the country's flood management system.
Good.
But rain is a precious commodity in Europe, now in the grip of one of its worst droughts ever recorded. Barge traffic on waterways is effectively halted in some regions as rivers run dry due to weeks of baking temperatures and scant rainfall, disrupting transport of goods worth $80 billion a year to regional economies. Officials in Britain warn that the country is on the brink of a vegetable shortage because crops have been ravaged by the summer heat wave. In Mexico, much of the northern part of the country is under extreme drought, forcing officials to implement water rationing in major cities and water deliveries by truck.
Just a little preview of what may be coming your way soon.
NBC reports that anger is growing in the region over multinational beverage companies with bottling plants like Coca-Cola and Heineken that are extracting billions of liters of water from public reservoirs. NASA scientist Benjamin Cook confirms that, yes, this is climate change.
Droughts and intense droughts and drying trends are all very consistent with what we expect with climate change.
So these big beverage companies are just taking the public's water, selling it off, and meanwhile, the public doesn't have enough actual water to drink?
Exactly.
Brilliant.
Meanwhile, Europe's climate monitor Copernicus announced that July 2022 was the third hottest July globally since record-keeping began in the 1880s.
Only the third?
Only the third. Summer 2022 is likely to rank as one of the 3 hottest years on record globally and has unleashed deadly extreme weather disasters across the globe. A new study warns global warming is also facilitating the spread of tropical diseases.
Oh, great.
A new study published this week finds that man-made climate change is already worsening the impact of diseases like Zika, malaria, and COVID-19 on human health.
You are nothing but good news today.
In other news, while we await passage in the U.S. House of the Democrats' landmark Inflation Reduction Act, the biggest climate legislation in U.S. history, the New York Times reports on a massive trove of internal documents that have revealed a well-funded, coordinated campaign among Republican state treasurers across the country to use government authority and taxpayer dollars to protect the fossil fuel industry.
Oh, of course.
The state treasurers are coordinating efforts to punish companies seeking to reduce their carbon emissions by shifting away from fossil fuel investments. One example, the Republican treasurer of West Virginia announced that he will retaliate against banks that refuse to finance coal projects by barring them from state government contracts.
Elected officials using the government to go after private companies if they dare take action on climate change.
That's exactly what they're doing.
Wow.
Finally, some good news. A sunken oil rig owned by Taylor Energy off the coast of Louisiana has been spewing oil into the Gulf of Mexico since 2004. Taylor Energy is now liquidating to pay over $400 million in cleanup costs. And in Australia, newly elected Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has set a new, legally binding national target to cut greenhouse gas emissions 43% by 2030. It's Australia's most meaningful climate legislation in decades. Elections have consequences.
Indeed, they do. For much more on all of those stories and the ones we couldn't get to today, check out our website at greennews.bradblog.com.
Are you tired of think tank approved corporate news and commentary? Are you tired of CEOs telling you what to think, who to hate, and who to vote for? Well, welcome to the Rick Smith Show. We don't take orders from some boardroom, and we don't do focus groups or talking points. We don't work for them, and we never will. I'm Rick Smith, and I work for you. Join us daily at thericksmithshow.com and download the podcast and never miss a minute.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So evidently I missed, I don't know how it happened, but evidently I missed the big rally at the FBI building. Evidently there was supposedly a giant right-wing media-backed rally at the FBI building to show displeasure with the FBI, because remember, these are the Back the Blue folks. These are the folks for years who were saying, you just comply. Yeah, I know the black kid got shot in the back 69 times, but if he'd have just listened, they wouldn't have done that. These are those same people who are now going, no, we need to defund the FBI, protest, in fact, not just defund them. There's the guy from Western PA who just got arrested for saying he's going to kill FBI agents. So they've gone even further, going a little bit crazier. But here to share some thoughts on the gigantic rally that saw, I guess, a handful of people show up. I've asked Zachary Petrizzo to come talk with us. Zachary's a media reporter over at the Daily Beast, thedailybeast.com, the website. Zach, thanks for taking time for us.
Thank you for having me.
So massive rally at the FBI building. Yeah. Massive.
So big you couldn't even see it. Yeah, I mean, look, this was supposed to be a big rally on Sunday. The pro-Trump websites, including the right-wing website that you might know called the Gateway Pundit, for example, and another site called We Love Trump, which is a pretty big right-wing site, a lot of influence in kind of MAGA world. These two sites have been promoting the event, I mean, for seemingly a couple days, and we're getting people pretty excited. Turns out the event was a massive flop. No one showed up. You had probably close to 12 FBI police officers kind of like wandering around. And I'd spoken with some of them and they had said, look, we think maybe there's a rally too. We haven't seen one yet. So I mean, it was a massive flop, especially for right-wing media that was pushing this for seemingly a couple of days. And there was a lot of support. Of course, the People's Convoy. There was some chatter online about the convoy also showing up at this event. But at the end of the day, it was a massive flop. No one showed up. And, I think while there are instances kind of around the country where we do see pro-Trump, demonstrators and right-wing activists, kind of open carrying weapons, right? We saw that in Arizona over the weekend. Potentially they're a bit scared and nervous to come back into Washington, D.C., especially when a lot of these people, saw what happened on January 6th and a lot of their pals ultimately ended up being arrested. Right.
Yeah. Now, we've seen these kind of things, these kind of protests in the past where people show up with their guns and they march in their cute little lines. Because, where I live, they have fake militia drills, not far from my house, where they come out and they play like they're a militia and they dress up in their costumes. Yeah, I mean, that's it. And, the truth of the matter is you're not going to see them marching down Main Street anytime soon. They're going to keep doing the kind of potshot stuff like, the guy in Cincinnati or this idiot out in Western PA, writing stuff online, keyboard cowboys. But I don't see them marching on the FBI building, in full militia regalia, like a militia would to overtake that. I just don't see that happening. Sorry.
Yeah. It was interesting. I think, I was thinking it might become something large, but it ended up not being. I think, as more and more I think about this, I mean, at the beginning of Trump's administration, perhaps there was never really a MAGA army, so to speak, right? Because, I mean, the inauguration, of course, that was kind of small, right? And so I guess, there's never been potentially, while we did see January 6th and et cetera, I mean, potentially, the so-called MAGA army is really becoming much weaker and kind of dwindling down. But at the same time, you see, perhaps not the volume, but you see people continue to be further radicalized. For example, on Truth Social, which is, of course, Donald Trump's platform, as the Daily Beast reported on Friday, there was an ex-Trump aide who, was really high up in the ranks. This guy reported right under Peter Navarro, who, of course, was a pretty large figure, especially after Trump lost the election. And there was this aide named Garrett Ziegler who was doxing, basically, posting all the information of the alleged FBI agents who had signed off on the warrant. And, here we are, here's a Trump aide that, for 4 years was touting back the blue, all this type of stuff. And now he's doxing FBI agents. He's taking links to the alleged family members of these FBI agents and posting them online and encouraging kind of all his followers to go harass these people. So it has been interesting to see, especially on Truth Social, these calls for civil war, as we were reported at the Daily Beast. I mean, Donald Trump's own social media platform is really becoming accessible for these things.
Becoming?
Oh yeah, exactly. I mean, perhaps even more so than what we've seen before, just in terms of the calls for civil war and everything else. I mean, the site, I don't think has the same type of usership as it claims. I mean, you'll see their truth posts, rack up likes like thousands at a time. So I think a lot of that's BS. But I do think that the calls for civil war and things like that have really kind of amped people up on the platform and gotten them really excited and are feeding off one another.
No, this is one of those things where, I think you're going to see the rhetoric get even more heated, if that's possible, even more radicalized, if that's even possible. And you're going to see, like this idiot in Cincinnati, or this guy out in the western part of Pennsylvania. I think you're going to see that kind of rhetoric heat up, and then occasionally you're going to see an act like the guy in Cincinnati who somehow must have been on the can watching a YouTube video on how you can get through bulletproof glass with a nail gun, because they're out there, but he failed.
No, I mean the rhetoric's definitely heating up, and of course Trump today, in this exclusive quote unquote Fox News interview, of course, tried to put out the fire, quite frankly, that he started, right? I mean, now he's saying we need to turn the temperature down in this country, quote unquote, right? So, I mean, you're the one that kind of started the fire, and now you're trying to put it out. I mean, ultimately it rests on you and not anyone else, right?
Yeah, there's an easy way to do this. There's an easy way to put the fire out.
Mm-hmm.
I took the documents. I was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Take ownership for it. That's simple. That seems simple, especially if you want to be a leader. Go, look, I thought I declassified these. Maybe I didn't. Oops.
Yeah, but of course now we see, as we see these goalposts that keep shifting. I mean, they are moving around so incredibly fast. It's hard to keep up with the next one and where it's going. But quite frankly, you have people like Kash Patel claiming, over the weekend that now Trump can magically kind of stand over documents and kind of put his hands over the documents and magically, kind of with the tapping of a wand, if you will.
He's a fake declassifier.
Yeah. They become declassified in a way that
classified.
Yeah, really. I mean, it's really crazy. These shifting kind of ideas. Of course, initially, there was a stage of denial. There was, look, I didn't do anything wrong, and now they're, oh, maybe I did, but they were all declassified. They were all declassified. Today, of course, it was they stole my 3 passports, right? So it's just. I mean, there's a lot going on in Trump world, and I do think, as we've spoken with advisors at the Daily Beast around, the former president, there is a sense that this can either make or break him in a way, right? This can either really, take him down, send him, serious charges, right? Or it could turn him into a larger kind of martyr, quote unquote, according to these sources. So it is interesting to kind of watch that.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. You're listening to the Rick Smith Show here with Zachary Patrizio. He's a media reporter over at the Daily Beast, thedailybeast.com. If you want to check out the incredible work he does, we'll get links out on social media. Now, you bring up an interesting point, because I'm of the mindset, and this is where Andrew Yang, I think, was trying to make some kind of a point, even though I'm still not sure what he was talking about. But by going after and charging Trump, in some people's eyes, that's going to turn him into a martyr. Their support for him is going to get much deeper. But isn't the calculus being that at least some Republicans are going to go, wait a minute, there is right and wrong. There is black and white. You had it or you didn't. That there's going to be some of those Republicans who finally go, this is too far. And I'll give you an example. Friday, I got 87 emails of different Republican groups going, hey, they raided Trump's house. They're coming for you. Send us money.
Mm-hmm.
Today, I got 4. The rest of the emails, still got emails from all those groups going, hey, give us money.
Mm-hmm.
But they were for other reasons. So it seems to me that even the establishment's kind of going, arm's length at this point, because there is something here.
I think you're totally right. I think you are seeing people like Kevin McCarthy, for example, up on Capitol Hill, kind of pull back a bit, and some other House Republicans. 100%, I agree with you. But at the same time, you see, those in Trump world, I mean, really taking on the issue. I mean, I've received probably, a couple hundred. I've read maybe not hundreds, but I mean, a lot of emails from Trump's campaign, something like 8 a day in the past couple days, where it's like, wow. And everyone is, my house was raided. The FBI raided me. They stole things, right? I mean, and of course the campaign, not his campaign, but his super PAC has already said, look, this has been the most lucrative fundraising we've seen in a long time. So for them, I mean, they really see it as a winning issue. I mean,
I said from the beginning, Zach, this is grifter Super Bowl.
Oh, 100%. I mean, not only that, not only are they fundraising off of, the quote unquote raid, but they're, fundraising off things like suing CNN for millions of dollars, and there's no paperwork filed for the suit at all, right? So, I mean, it really is, all about fundraising.
And he's never going to sue CNN because he'd have to go through discovery, and he doesn't want that. But he does, and you're right. This is where, again, I keep coming back for my Trump supporter friends. I know you bought the shirt, you got the hat, some of you even bought the flag. And I think there should be, and maybe we can start this here at the program, a hat, shirt, and flag buyback program. If you'll just lose the allegiance to Trump and go, you know what? Yeah, he is wrong. He is grifting us. He's fleecing the flock, if you will. We just buy the flags back, buy all the stuff back, and you can be free of it. You don't have to look at the stuff anymore. It would be, I think that could help.
Yeah, no, it sounds like a promising idea. I think especially if we see DeSantis jump into this race and ultimately, create a pretty big, wedge, an even larger wedge within the Republican Party as kind of other people like Cotton and others, Tim Scott, I wouldn't rule him out, right? I mean, you could really see things start to boil over, especially with an angry Trump who is pretty angry about this raid.
But again, this is one of those moments where you brought this on yourself, because as I understand, and I know you've been following this like everyone else, didn't the National Archive people, didn't they show up at his house and go, give us our stuff back? Didn't they issue a subpoena going, hey, we'd like our stuff back? Haven't there been multiple conversations of, hey, we want our stuff back? And his lawyers signing off going, no, we don't have your stuff anymore, only to find out that, yeah, you had all the stuff. I mean, these are crimes in and of themselves to where they could have all been avoided.
Yeah, I mean, look, his team wants to claim, of course, now that they've been cooperating the whole time, but something at some point had to have broken down. I mean, more recently for the FBI to really consider this as an option. I mean, at the end of the day, they are, conducting a search warrant on a former president's home, which, of course, we saw reporting from the Wall Street Journal today. Note that, this was a 2-week, consideration, right? So the FBI and Merrick Garland took this very seriously. And they really thought through this. And it was pretty clearly, and it's evident within that Wall Street Journal reporting, that this was a very well thought through and, kind of step-by-step plan that they had carried out in a last resort, right? Yeah. I mean, they weren't just kind of rolling up. You'll see a lot of MAGA world pundits, for example, like Diamond and Silk, for example,
those two idiots.
Those two, right, exactly. They're like, they're floating to their audience nowadays. Well, your home might be raided tonight too, and they'll just bang in your door. And so we see this exaggeration and really overplaying their hand kind of among the Trump world pundits. But of course, this is kind of what they want to kind of, muddy the issue and, convince their listeners that they could be raided too, just like Trump.
Yeah, if you're breaking the law, that tends to happen. So, so last bit I've got for you, because I understand there's potentially another warrant, another warrant out there somewhere, another search warrant somewhere out there outside of the Golden Palace. Is that accurate?
I haven't seen that, another search warrant in terms of them conducting another search warrant on Trump's property.
Yeah, someone sent me a thing saying that there's another search warrant out there that they signed, 2 of them, the same judge, one for the Golden Palace, Mar-a-Lago, and then one for, I guess, another location. And I'm trying to find information on that.
I haven't read anything on that. What I will say is, of course, our reporting indicates that Trump spends a lot of time up at Bedminster, right? And while I don't have any information, to confirm that that property is, any point of interest, He does spend a lot of time up there. He has a golf course up there, of course. So, who knows? I mean, there's still, this investigation is still very early. Of course, Merrick Garland came out and late last week had kind of given a brief statement, didn't take questions at the DOJ. So I think, there still are a lot of questions in this town about precisely, exactly what it's all about. I think we have some ideas, right? We saw the Espionage Act and we saw some other stuff. But of course, Trump today is saying stuff about taking up passports and stuff like that. I mean, this is going to clearly take us into the 2024 election. And I do think it'll take that long to kind of get to the bottom of all this.
Yeah, we'll see where this takes us. And I'm sure the twists and turns and the whiplash we'll both have from it will at least be interesting. At least
Yeah.
It's not boring. At least it's not boring.
Exactly. One thing's almost certain in Trump world, as some sources tell me, is that Trump is always uncertain. And, it's hard to predict his next move. So we could see him potentially announce in the coming weeks and kind of turn this into the big campaign issue all the way through to a general election.
Yeah, that's what my Trump friends love about him. He's unpredictable.
That's it.
Yeah, I don't know if that's good for democracy or not, but we'll see. Zach, I appreciate the time. As always, good stuff.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Good stuff. Our friend Zach Petrizzo. Make sure you check out his work over at the Daily Beast, where he is a reporter. I'm going to take a quick break with your thoughts. 1-866-416-RICK, 1-866-416-7425. This is The Rick Smith Show. For working people on the talk. If you're a fan of the show, you've heard our labor history in 2 segments, and you can hear them on the radio pretty much anywhere in the U.S. Labor history has never been more important than it is right now. So here's what we'd like you to do. Tell a teacher. Tell a teacher that labor history is important and that they can get digestible 2-minute lessons that are absolutely free. Free to download, free to use, free to share. Tell a teacher to go to thericksmithshow.com/history and help us put labor back where it belongs, in the classroom. Generations of American workers fought, bled, and died to build the American way of life. It's our job to keep their stories alive. Go tell a teacher that we're here to help them do just that. Find us at thericksmithshow.com/history today.
Welcome back to The Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
Such fun and entertainment. And, I guess I go back to when Trump took office back in 2017. So long ago. And I said, look, this is going to be the most corrupt administration in the history of the nation. There are going to be things that have never been done before, so get ready for it. And I go back and I think about that inauguration show, and I go, wow, how clairvoyant thou wast. And you go, how did you know? You go, well, not hard. Not hard when you look at the fact that, and look, I had followed Trump for years beforehand. This is the kind of chaos that he leaves in his wake. So am I surprised that our democratic processes are all in a mess? Not so much. Let's go to the phones. We got Eddie from Madison, Wisconsin. Madison, big on the phones tonight. Eddie, what's on your mind, buddy?
Yeah, Rick, I just wanted to let you know that there was a riot in Madison in 2020, I guess, after the George Floyd killing. And one police squad car was set on fire. 2 bronze statues around the Capitol were torn down. There was some looting on State Street. One legislator who was taking video of the demonstration, he was injured by, I guess, some of the demonstrators, though the 2 women accused of that were found not guilty. But and the police did use some tear gas to move the demonstrators at the end of the evening. So there was a bit of a riot here in Madison after George Floyd was killed.
Okay, so the reports that I got from folks is that they didn't consider that's not what they were saying is they didn't see a riot. I'm looking at it, and so I'm going to look it up, and I appreciate you giving me some thoughts on this, because I didn't know. I wasn't there. My understanding is there wasn't a riot in Madison, but I will look into it. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks. Again, I'm anti-riots, just so you know. It could be, construed that I'm in favor of riots because of what I said about going to Madison. My experience there, the people were peaceful, were good, honest, decent people. But I look at a lot of these things that sprung up in the aftermath of the killing of George Floyd, some broken windows and some stuff like that. I have a problem with it, yes, but there's part of me that goes, I understand. And the frustrating part of this is, how much have we done to fix the original problem? That's kind of the struggle that I have in this moment. But I appreciate the thoughts, the call, and the information. You can also email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. I'm looking at some of the videos, and it looks like, again, like most of these situations, overwhelmingly the vast majority of the people there were there peacefully. But it is what it is. Maybe we can grab one more call before we race into the break. We've got John from Los Angeles on line 3. John, how are we doing today?
Doing well, thank you. How are you?
Not bad. What's on your mind?
I just wanted to say that I don't believe in the death penalty. So Julius and Ethel Rosenberg was from a previous era.
Yep, I agree.
As far as I'm concerned. But Trump's what I call superhumanity needs to be brought back to earth, and he does need to be punished the way the rest of us would be punished if we did what he's done. If he's not punished, then we shouldn't be. The rest of us shouldn't be punished. Okay. And it's that kind of role model and role situation that keeps the society intact or distracted or deteriorated.
No, I agree with you. Look, our elites must be held accountable when they break the law. I'm right there with you. I am with you on I'm against the death penalty in every situation, so I'm not advocating for that for him at all. I think it would be much worse for him to sit in jail for the final days of his existence. So if that's where you're going,
I really don't.
Not there.
I don't care about him. I care about the rest of us.
Right.
And what he does to the rest of us indirectly by his going off scot-free.
No, I agree. No, absolutely. And that's why is why I think all of this is so important and why we have to get to the bottom of it. And look, I have friends who go, we should investigate Obama and we should investigate Hillary. I go, we have. And none of the things that you're claiming happened or raised at a level of locking people up. This is concrete. This is stuff.
Well, they say, regarding Hillary, lock her up. Well, I would say lock him away, not just lock him up, but put him away and throw away the key. Have a good day.
It is a start. Appreciate it, John. Thanks for the call. No, seriously. I mean, the rule of law has to be for everyone or it's for no one. And this is the spot that we're finding ourselves. When Hillary Clinton testified before Congress, she sat there for 11 hours, answered every question. And oddly enough, none of the things they couldn't go back after her for lying. She didn't plead the fifth once. We find out that that 45 here pled the fifth, 400 and some times? So maybe that 45 should be just changed to a 5. On the hat, instead of the 45th, maybe it's just a 5th. Love to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. I'm going to take a quick break. When we come back, Bob Ney, former Ohio congressman, to be here to share some thoughts on the latest. I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1989. That was the day that Jerry Horgan was killed while walking the picket line. Jerry was a chief steward for the Communication Workers of America Local 1103. The communication workers were on strike against telecom giant NYX Corporation, which became part of the present-day Verizon company. At issue was management's proposal to shift a greater share of the healthcare costs onto the backs of workers. The strike wore on for a total of 17 weeks. In total, nearly 60,000 telephone workers in the Northeast participated in the walkout. These included both CWA members as well as members of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. Jerry Horgan was part of the strike in the town of Valhalla, New York, about 25 miles north of New York City. Jerry was struck by a vehicle driven by a strikebreaker while walking the picket line. The driver was the daughter of one of the company's managers. She was never charged for hitting Jerry, although some at the scene claimed she accelerated after hitting him with her car. One witness, Charles Pierce, recalled that Jerry was run down like a dog. The CWA honors Jerry's memory by wearing red t-shirts. In 2010, a CWA article titled "Why We Wear Red" explained, quote, "The idea started small. We asked our members to wear red on Thursday to remind the company of the blood they had spilled and to show support for our fallen brother. But it quickly spread nationwide as a sign of solidarity every Thursday at CWA locations. Jerry Horgan was killed standing up for the rights of workers and fighting for a better tomorrow for all workers." Labor History in 2 brought to you by the Illinois Labor History Society and The Rick Smith Show. For more information, go to laborhistoryin2.com.
From corporate polluters to political bosses, power elites try to create a myth of inevitability, trying to make workaday people feel helpless, too small to change the injustices of the system. Don't bother is their message. But the feisty residents of Boxtown, Tennessee definitely did bother when they learned that a couple of profiteering fossil fuel giants were targeting them. Boxtown, a historic black neighborhood of Memphis settled by former slaves 160 years ago, was considered by Valero Energy and Plains All-American Pipeline to be politically powerless. So when these multi-billion-dollar petro powers decided to ram a dirty and dangerous pipeline through the Memphis area, Boxtown was their chosen route. The rich Texas oil barons even sneeringly called the lower-income community the point of least resistance. Boy, did they get that wrong. Those, quote, small people of Boxtown resisted fiercely and smartly. Most flat out refused to sell their family land at the thieving price offered by the oil slicks. They forged a unified grassroots coalition, Memphis Community Against the Pipeline, reached out to other neighborhoods and educated locals about the terrible safety records of the two corporate plunderers. They also enlisted environmental groups to help beat back the strong-arm attempt by Valero and Plains All-American to seize the people's property through eminent domain. It's a long story with many ups and downs, but the inspiring essence of it is that local, quote, nobodies defeated the big money and raw racist arrogance of a powerhouse duo of absentee corporate elites that disrespected and misjudged them. This is Jim Hightower saying grassroots communities and coalitions are winning such gutsy fights against corporate exploiters all across America. Remember this, even the smallest dog can lift its leg on the tallest building.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So, John Bolton back in the news again. Evidently, John Bolton says Trump is lying about the classified docs, because you may remember last week I asked my good friend Bob Ney, is it possible that on the way out the door Trump declassified everything? Is it possible he signed an executive order? Well, Bolton's saying no standard order was declassified materials was done. He said, quote, "I was never briefed on any such order, procedure, policy, any of that when it came in. If he were to say something like that, you would have memorialized that so that people would have known it existed." He says, when somebody begins to concoct lies like this, it shows a real level of desperation. I kind of agree, and it's again, I'm in this spot where I'm agreeing with a Cheney and now Bolton. What hath happened? What had happened to the Republican Party? And here to share some thoughts, I've asked our good friend, former Ohio Congressman Bob Ney, to come share some. Bob, thanks for taking time for us.
Well, thank you, Rick.
What is this country coming to when it's I'm looking for answers from a Cheney and Bolton.
Well, okay, Cheney's one thing, but I'm not going to agree with Bolton. If he comes publicly and says I'm a good person, I'm not agreeing with him. Okay, I don't care. No matter what, I won't agree with Bolton. But there's a process here. Look, the super secret nuclear, and you and I talked about this the other day, not the nukes, but we talked about the declassification. The super secret nuke things go through a different process. In general, presidents can classify and declassify. Again, there's a procedural process through it, recommendations, et cetera. But in theory, because again, what's going to result out of this at the end of all of this is the Congress is going to have to do several things. Electoral college clarification, how the vice president functions, electoral college clarification, and this will then be clarified in presidential papers someday, somehow, somewhere.
So,
but the president, as a sitting president when Trump was president, you don't just say, "Oops, magic wand, that's declassified, that's not," and then later on say, "Well, I did that." There's an executive order process which is documented. Otherwise, guess what? It's not declassified.
So there's no secret drawer pocket declassification executive order possibility.
There has to be somewhere on record while he was in the White House an executive order. You can't leave the White House and say, "Yeah, I declassified that." Well, where's the executive order? No, it's just I just said it. No, there has to be, from everything I understand. I called a couple of people today who are kind of legal eagles on this, and they say, if you're going to do an executive order, you don't do it in theory, you don't do it orally, you do executive orders in writing. Somewhere there would have to have been a document that obviously proved it was during his time still in the White House.
You sure it's maybe
on
not
every piece of paper?
Maybe not tucked under the desk blotter on the White House, on the Resolute desk, just kind of just in case, like in case break glass, none of that stuff. Couldn't be that.
And you don't have a generic declassification of everything. So, again, if they were declassified, they had to be, somewhere. Now, a lot of other issues are coming into this.
Yeah.
His passport, Well, first of all, they don't take your passport until you're into a plea situation or you're into a bond situation, into being charged. My passport was surrendered at the sentencing. All right. By the way, justice wasn't very bright. I gave him my passport. I said, "You want the other one?" And they went, "What other one?" I said, "Members have two passports if they want." So I said, "Here's the second one, by the way, I could have kept." But with Trump, those were potentially taken, when they took records, but they didn't take them, I would highly doubt it, to say, "You now can't leave the country."
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that are popping up here that are extra material to the substantive issues of classified or not classified.
And it's not like you worry about him running. It's not like he's going to go. No. He's got Secret Service detail. I mean, they're right there.
He's not going to run.
He's not going anywhere.
He's also not going to leave the country and even go to Saudi Arabia. He's not going to do that. But again, these are other things that pop up. For example, the Roger Stone information was there. Well, Justice took what was in the boxes, and if Roger Stone information is there, it has nothing to do with classified. It'll be given back.
Right.
Or the President Francis letter or whatever on earth there was. But staying to the issue of this, either he classified them, declassified them, or he didn't. And it's not a verbal waving of the magic wand. So, Bolton, I don't know. Bolton leaves it kind of open that, he doesn't know for sure, but he's, guessing, as a lot of people are, that, some of these were not declassified.
Yeah, I mean, but if there were an executive order, if he did what the claim is, now, I don't think it's Trump claiming this. I think it's this Kash Patel and others.
Right.
they're saying, he issued this broad, declassification order. What isn't there a process? There's a process you have to go through to make that officially known, so that it's documented, it's memorialized, it's there. There's no guessing, because there is no, hey, he thought it, so it's therefore declassified. That's ridiculous.
Right. There is a executive order process.
And he would know it because he issued a lot of executive orders.
Right. And I know in the past he had said he had signed a couple of executive orders, and then they questioned, whether he did. If my memory serves me right, he signed one on protecting monuments, but he had been teasing about it or something, so it didn't exist. This was, Trumpisms. But when it comes to these, you can't say, I'm doing a blanket executive. Well, I guess you could. You could say I'm doing a blanket declassification, but you just can't say of all the documents.
Right.
I mean, you could, but you cause chaos. You have to say of the EPA document, the NASA document, the CIA document. You just don't do
right. So this
broad-based. And you don't do them after the fact.
Right, and this is where I come back to the arguments that are being made right now that I'm being thrown at, that are being thrown at me by MAGA World is, he was just investigating the Russia hoax, so all of these documents they had to do with the Russia hoax. But he was president for 4 years. He could have declassified if he has the power that you're saying he has to declassify anything that he wants. Anything that I guess he would view as Russia hoax related, wouldn't that have already been declassified? Wouldn't that be already out? Why hoard this stuff in the basement? Why try and hide this stuff? And look, here's the scary part for me. We're finding out that payroll information about government assets around the world he had possession of. Okay, is this part of the Russia hoax? Is this where you're going? Or is this just blackmail material? I don't know, but it's concerning.
Well, and yes, and here's the other problem with this. Now they're bringing in Justice Department issues about whether President Bush and Vice President Cheney could have authorized Scooter Libby to leak, to select journalists. You remember the Valerie Flame, leak, of course. The key findings of what were then classified documents on Iraq's efforts to get the weapons of mass destruction, which we know there never were any. So Libby had claimed that there were disclosures from Bush and Cheney, and that they had their special counsel, I can't remember his name, and they were releasing classified information, but instead they had perjury charges against Scooter Libby, as we know. But all of this also centered around the ability of the president giving permission to a particular person to disclose information to another person. And to clarify that, Cheney telling Scooter something about Valerie Flame and then Scooter passing it on. And it's not exactly, the same type of case, but it shows that in the past prosecutors, have had some ability to see how a president declassifies information without a clear trail of paper. And the problem with everything I just said is you have uncharted territory. So probably Trump is going to go back to the Scooter Libby era of when Bush, et cetera, and Alberto Gonzales and that whole crew, Harriet Miers, the White House lawyer, were arguing that, you can declassify verbally. And that was the argument. Now, Scooter Libby had to be pardoned because, he was found guilty. But that was an argument then. And again, this is all up in the air. Does anything in the law say you just verbally do executive orders? No. But they're going to argue, probably, that this is done verbally because, Rick, I'm guessing they're not going to be able to produce executive orders documented on, all the material.
Oh,
Maybe
sure
they can on 20% of it. Maybe they can on 10. I don't know.
They're just going to make it up like they did with the fake
Maybe
electors.
None. Right.
We're going to have fake executive orders now because, hey, it just seems to be the world that we're in. You listen to the Rick Smith Show. We're here with former Ohio Congressman Bob Ney. I want to change gears real quick and go to a different topic because I'm almost tired of talking about this, and I think this is part of the plan to get you so frustrated and so worn down with the fire hose of BS and lies that eventually you just throw up in your hands and
Right.
go move away from it. But I got to move away for a second because we're starting to see the people going to jail for the January 6th riots, and we're starting to see all that accountability. But we're also starting to see them write books and make money off of it. And I was reading an interesting article of, should we be going and clawing some of this money back from these people who are making bank off of their crimes, especially given the fact that, millions of dollars of damage were done to the Capitol, and that should be repaid. I'm curious, any thoughts?
Well, I mean, it should be. I mean, there's restitution. People have to make restitution. For example, I didn't have restitution because mine wasn't involved in taking money. Abramoff had to make restitution. I had a fine, but he had restitution. And in cases, where somebody does some type of damage, whether it's physical damage or, ethical damage, there's restitution made, or if they've taken money. So, they've got to look at a couple of things. One, behind bars with a federal charge, you cannot make a profit off of your crime. When you get out, if you want, you can write, a book. But again, if they were part of damage, I don't understand why every single one of them would not have to have a division of the total costs of the damage to the U.S. Capitol.
Yeah. No, I'm of the mindset you shouldn't be able to profit off of that crime, or any crime,
you
really.
You can't, again, while you're in. When you get out, then it becomes a whole different ballgame when you're off, probation or parole, whichever, you're doing.
So this now becomes something of the sentencing where you say, look, any proceeds from any future financial endeavors related to this crime, a percentage of it has to go to the House.
Well, right. Look, the Capitol had, to the best of my recollection of what I read about it, the Capitol damage exceeded $30 million. That's the damage to the Capitol. That doesn't include the time, the National Guard, the Capitol Hill Police, but just the damage to the Capitol, Rick, was $30 million.
Wow.
You take that, add probably, I'm going to guess, $10 million in the amount of hours. Then we had the National Guard, remember, had to keep them in the bottom of the parking garage, remember?
Yep.
So you start to add that up. Let's say $50 million. You take, and I'm not real good in math, you'll have to help me here, but if you take $50 million, and how many were going to trial? Was it
It's like 700?
400? I forget.
Like 700?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So if you take 50 million and you divide it by 700, that probably comes down to, I don't know,
Like 75 grand a piece.
okay, 75 grand a piece. So at least they should all split the costs. Everybody. Now, if less are convicted, then that figure is going to go up to maybe 120,000. That's normal par for course. I don't know why they're not including restitution, because when you have damage, you have restitution.
Yeah. No, it just seems like they're getting off way too easy. I know their most recent penalties seem to be going up a little bit, but just way too easy. Also wanted to get
I always use the example. If you and I in Pennsylvania or Ohio decide to go out and break a window in one federal post office and go inside and do some damage, guess what? We're going to be some for sure time and money.
No, you're not wrong in that. Which is why this is just crazy to me. But I wanted to get your thoughts on what's going on with China. Evidently, we've got another congressional delegation there, and another set of drills, I guess, by the Chinese being announced.
Right. Senator Markey went over with a U.S. delegation, and there were some Republicans also, by the way, that went. It was a bipartisan delegation. And it was 2 weeks after the Speaker's trip. Now, the Speaker was the highest profile figure that's been there since Newt Gingrich went in the mid-'90s. But once again, China wasn't happy. They didn't express as much anger as when Pelosi went, but they did their drills and their missiles into the sea, etc. I think that after some period of time, this will probably subside. I just don't think China will, at this point, will make a direct move. You never know about them, but I don't think they'll make a direct move. So they take areas without really, they'll thump their chest, but they take them without missiles. That's what they did in Tibet.
Right.
They moved in millions of Chinese, basically overran the Tibet population, eventually made it illegal to learn the Tibetan language. That's what China does. They keep that type of control. So I really don't think they'll militarily move down into Taiwan.
So
but they're angry.
What is our position in Taiwan? Because I know we've got the we still believe in the one China policy, I guess. But we have to defend Taiwan in the event of an attack. It's kind of a murky situation. Yeah. What is our position?
Well, let's go back to with Jerusalem being the capital, which we all voted on years ago, and the policy was just ignored year after year after year by all the presidents until Trump came in. Because we did that, yes, Jerusalem needs to be the capital, and then we never implemented it. So we had a dual policy. Our policy, and you'll see it in the news reports, is that Washington, they'll say that Washington has a policy. It's one China. Taiwan is not separate. We don't diplomatically recognize them, but we will support them militarily. Yeah, right. So we just have this double policy. It's sort of a save face. China knows we really do support Taiwan, but as long as we don't officially say it, it's okay.
But it seems it's getting increasingly more like that's not okay anymore.
Correct, because now, because of the visits, then China will want us to, quote, prove as a government where we stand. But then again, we're not, just one lemming system. D.C. and the president can think what they want about something. That doesn't mean all members of Congress will think that way. So there's going to be, obviously in a democratic society and democratic country, since we're a democracy, we're going to have people that should have different opinions if they want to, and that's what happens here.
Interesting. Finally, evidently, Russia says they're ready to arm some allies because they can't be thrilled that we're giving Ukraine weapons. So this is kind of the response to that.
Well, yes, most likely. Russia is saying it's ready. It's ready to arm its allies, and Putin said that Moscow values tie with certain countries in Latin America, and he mentioned Asia and Africa. And it's ready to offer modern weapons to its allies. Now, it has offered weapons to India, and India responded because India has at its back Pakistan and China. There was a China-Indo war at one point in time in the 60s with India. India let in the Dalai Lama, and China went berserk and hysteric. And there's border clashes. And then Pakistan, of course, which has had military overthrows, a radical government, at best. And so India needed support. We weren't giving it to them, so they went to Russia, which happens. If we give them support, I don't think they will be as dependent on Russia. And Russia knows that there are certain places. But a lot of this is for show. Right now, Russia is letting people out of prison if they will go join the military. Russia's having a problem. It's a beginning problem. And so I really don't see this. This is just a counter to us being involved with NATO in the Ukraine, and then they're going to arm. What are they going to do? Are they going to arm Venezuela? Is Venezuela going to attack us? I mean, really? It's Putin.
Yeah, no, but you're right. Russia does have a problem. I was reading something the other day that said how many soldiers they've lost already in this, and you go, man. I mean, it's like 50, 60,000 people they've lost.
Yes, and the soldiers don't want to be there. They're having trouble keeping them there. Now it's starting to filter back to Russia because of the propaganda, tools that Russia's used. It was like, well, Russia's about to be attacked, and now it's filtering back from soldiers coming back. That's not maybe the case. So there's starting to be a crack in the armor of Putin. But I think this is just his way of creating his own NATO in his mind that he's going to fund weapons. Russia is economically going to be hurting so bad that I really doubt. Maybe they want to sell some weapons, but I don't think particularly they're going to be in the process of giving them away.
Yeah, good point. As always, I appreciate the time and the thoughts. Good stuff, my friend.
Well, thank you, Rick.
Good stuff. Our good friend Bob Ney. Love to hear your thoughts. You can email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. I saw that report and I'm like, here we go. I remember growing up during the Cold War, where you had these kind of proxy fights. You had these kind of, we're vying for the rest of the world's affection by giving them stuff. But yet here at home, we're fighting over a former president and stealing declassified or not declassified documents. I mean, do you ever sit and wonder? Because this is where I spend a bit of time thinking. And look, love this country passionately. But I see our divisions as the thing that is our great undoing. The more we eat each other, the more we rip each other apart, the more we're not dealing with big problems. Big problems, war around the world, famine around the world, climate change. Fortunately, the Biden administration, did usher through recently this Inflation Reduction Act, which is going to do a little bit to move on climate, a little bit. I think it's already sealed. I think, sadly, my kids and my grandchildren are going to suffer enormous penalties for our inactions. For instance, a new study's just popped up that's saying there's going to be an extreme heat belt that will extend from Texas all the way to Illinois. And they define this as an area where temperatures could reach at least 125 degrees Fahrenheit, at least one day a year by 2053. 2053 is not all that far down the road. And imagine 125 degrees. I know, it's a dry heat. No, it's 125 freaking degrees. And you think about what's going to happen with all of the movement of people in this country and the lack of resources to care for our citizens. I have people going, what are you going to do about immigration? What are you going to do about, this? What about, the transgenders? I don't care. What about Hunter Biden's laptop? Don't care. Don't care about Hunter Biden's laptop even a little bit. Unless he's got classified material on his laptop, unless you can prove that he was using our government to fleece somebody or he was doing something illegal in that vein, which they have not, don't care about his laptop. That's for the criminal justice system. They'll figure it out. There'll be an investigation. There'll be subpoenas. There'll be warrants. They'll figure it out. But as a matter of this is what we're talking about politically, don't care. I care about the fact that they're saying California is going to have massive problems with storms of the future that could have massive droughts to massive flooding. And we're horribly unprepared. And is it because we don't care or we're just plain stupid? I don't know what the reason is. But being this ripped apart and this divided, not helpful. Now, the reality is most of us alive today not gonna feel the real true costs and the real true ramifications of inaction. But our children and our grandchildren will. And maybe that doesn't matter to you. Sad stuff. Love to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Appreciate you tuning in. If you miss any of the program, make sure you grab the podcast. Wherever you get yours, you'll find ours. Thanks for being here. See you next time.
You've been listening to The Rick Smith Show. Email Rick at rick@thericksmithshow.com. Until next time, this has been The Rick Smith Show, where working people come to talk.